Well, Sweden is a modern society with modern values, so we have seen many media articles that describe the Catholic Church as something backwards, something not so modern, and actually a threat towards modern society and the values of modern society. That's the normal media and also politicians' version of Catholic Church and Catholic values, and the Pope, of course. He is against abortions, they used to say. He's against contraceptives, and that is something that doesn't cope with the European community and the values and so on. But now, we have to, of course, to respect that this meeting was initiated by the Lutheran World Association as an ecumenical meeting. But then now no one can deny that the Pope will somewhat steal the occasion. You can just see outside here with all the fences and the police, and it would never have happened if the Pope didn't come here.
Can you somehow sum it up for Czech audience, because we are not familiar with this information? How was it in short way? Can you describe the situation?
Oh, it's only 1,000 years to summarize in some minutes. Well, actually, I come from a province where we have these rune stones from the Vikings, many of them. But in school we learned that it was missionaries from abroad that came with the Christian faith. But last summer I studied those rune stones with a special alphabet from the Vikings, and most of them are Christian actually. Actually, my theory is that the Vikings came home. They were quite cruel, but some stayed for several years in foreign countries, and they were baptized, and they came back home as Christian. And then they had a need for church, because then during just some 200 years, churches came from nowhere. In some provinces, they are still there, from the 12th, 13th century, and they're beautiful. So many churches. We were not so great many in population by then. But then the Reformation came, 1530 around, and it was cruel, because but the Catholics were forbidden to have their mass that they used to have, and all these traditions with blessing the harvest, with taking the hostia to sick. Everything was not permitted.
So what was after the Reformation? How was the situation of Catholics after that?
It was horrible, because all the monasteries and convents were forbidden, and they used these actual stones for military construction, so they were ruined totally. And we have martyrs actually. It was forbidden, and it was not until very recently that all these laws were disappeared. For example, you couldn't found a monastery in Sweden until 1957 or something like that. You couldn't become a teacher if you were openly Catholic until 1967. So this is actually history that you see now, that the Holy Father comes here. Well, he was here in 1989 also, but then he was just to see to his diaspora, to the Catholics, but now he's here also to see the Swedish Lutheran Church. But we must not forget all these hundreds of years when Catholics had to hide. It's not so known maybe down in Europe. And then you shouldn't forget that Sweden was a blossoming Catholic country with art, with architecture, the people embraced the faith. It was not from the state as a Lutheran church. It came from the state, from the king. So, but I think now you will see, everyone will see in TV all these young people embracing again the Catholic faith, and many immigrants, of course. and we have to enjoy to enjoy this to really be happy for this.
What's the situation of Catholics in Protestant Sweden right now? How many Catholics are there, and how it's divided, the church, the Catholic Church?
I think we are around 150,000, but there is a grey zone, you know, with this enormous immigration. I mean, last year I think it was 120,000 new persons coming into Sweden. 120,000, that's a small society in Sweden. So we don't have maybe perfect control of it. But then we have of course, you asked me about divided. Well, we have Chaldeans, of course, now from Iraq and from Syria. We have Maronites, we have Melkites maybe, we have the Orthodox, of course. They are not Catholic. We have also Greek Catholics. Mm-hmm. So, and conversions, Swedish people, Lutheran or non-religious that convert, they are steady around 170, 150 a year. Not so many, but some. And the relation, actually we cooperate more with the so-called free churches, the evangelicals. For example, I cooperate with evangelicals about sex education. But the Lutherans are not there. Not so active, actually. It's easier, actually, for Catholics to work with evangelicals, and that's not so common. I heard from USA or from Germany or so, but in Sweden it's like that.
Can you say something more about Swedish society and religion? Because Lutheran Church, like Church of Sweden, is official state church. How it's applied in society, in daily life?
Well, actually, it's not anymore a state official church of the state. It was finished year 2000, but still there are some privileges the Lutheran Church have. For example, everyone that's born and have one or two parents that are registered Lutherans, the child will be registered in the Lutheran Church without baptism. They say, well, maybe they will baptize later on. And immigrants are also automatically registered in the Lutheran Church. Statistics, they say that 16% of the Swedish population say that religion is something important for them. But 63% belong to the Swedish Lutheran Church. But 45% are baptized of the newly born children. 45% are being baptized. That's quite interesting figures. However, I think that 16% you should be very careful in say that so many atheists and a secularized country, because you give the answers that are comfortable for you. And there are some signs, and you maybe will see them these days, that actually the Swedish people are not so secular. Well, looking to the history, of course, we didn't have that very hard history from Second World War and force with the socialism. We have had social democracy for 44 years. I think they were in the government. But you know, they were not that hard-line atheists at all. Actually, there was a Christian part of the social democracy also. But then, of course, we are a dead end of the world, a corner in the world, and the Catholic influence has been not so very fluent. So, what I would like to say to the Czech, to your people is that please pray for us. And why don't you use our latest Saint Maria Elisabeth Hesselblad? And there's a beautiful prayer for the Scandinavian people to return to under the fold of Peter, It's published in www.catobs.se in English, and it's a beautiful prayer. She put it in a letter to Pope Pius X when she applied to wear the habit of Saint Bridget, the Saint Bridget order, as the only existing Saint Bridget sister in Rome. And the Pope, I think he thought that must be a crazy woman. But 16 years later, she had her monastery, her convent there in Rome. And she never gave in to believe that the Swedish people should return to the Catholic Church. That was everything her vocation was about. So please, pray for us. And it's a beautiful country, Sweden, and beautiful people. And we have also responsibility for our immigrants, Christian immigrants from the Middle East now, so that they can return and maintain their Christian faith. And that, I think, is a really good thing to pray for. Thank you.